Okay, my name's Zakashi guys, and in this video here, we got a PvP guide. I know I haven't done a PvP guide in a while, so it's about time I bring them back. In this video here, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to avoid getting perfect vanished. You guys must hate getting perfect vanished. It's probably one of the most annoying things that could happen to you in ranked PvP. So if I teach you how to avoid them, you'll have a much more fun experience every single time. What I'm going to teach you here is very easy to do, very simple to apply. All God rank players do it, and once you're able to actually add this to your skill set, you'll become a GOAT in PvP. 0 to 100, let's get into this. Okay, so for future reference, if you just want to test out anything, it's not exactly a practice mode, but it's the closest thing you have to a practice mode in Dragon Ball Legends. What you want to do is go to menu, then you want to press summon. Then what you want to do is pick a banner, it doesn't even matter which one. Go to featured characters, and there's a button on the bottom right that says try. In that try section, you can try things on an immobile NPC that won't be moving. Immobile, that's what that means. And you can just try out things pressing cards. It's more so for trying out the new summonable character, but you can of course test things out as well with things that wouldn't need the enemy to move. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Right, so I'm assuming you guys have played at least one game of PvP, whether it be PvE or PvP, as long as you've played the game. When you're fighting somebody, the easiest way to catch someone is during a sidestep, but you could also use that to your advantage at long range or mid range. So if you're fighting somebody and they consistently sidestep like this trying to PV you, all you need to do is time it so that the minute they are in that sidestep motion, you should know while you're in that sidestep motion, you're unable to cancel it. No matter how much I pressed, you can see I'm tapping the screen 3 times. I tapped it multiple times there on the sidestep. No matter how many times I press to try sidestep or sidestep the other way, it doesn't matter. Until my character lands on his 2 feet, it won't allow me to do anything. And that's the same for the enemy, of course. So what you can do with that information is hit them with a blast art or a strike art while they're in that sidestep frame. And depending how late or early you are, if you're too early, you'll get perfect vanish, because the minute they sidestep, you'd be sending the attack and then perfect vanish happens. That's what you're trying to avoid. What you want to do is hit a blast art. So if they have no blast armor, even if they did have blast armor, they might do it a bit late because they're in sidestep motion. You have to pretty much time it perfectly. So with this, it's pretty much just watching your opponent, waiting for them to be in that sidestep motion, and the minute they are, you send the blast arts their way, or you can do a strike arts cancel in that moment. You could potentially get them wary so they'll sidestep again. You could hit them with maybe another blast art if you're using Gohan, blast armor cancel, the anti-blast armor. There's so many combinations you could do. You could even do it into a green card if you're doing a strike art. But what you need to bear in mind is that in that moment when they are sidestepping, they cannot do anything. So they need to react after they land on their feet, and that gives you 1 second to be ahead of them. Whether they want to vanish step again and you hit them with the tap attacks after the blast armor cancel, whether it's a strike card and you're obtaining Dragon Balls, or you want to chain that into a green card when you get closer to them because they're now panicking. All the options are on the table for you to use at your disposal. This way to avoid getting perfect vanished, I personally don't like doing it, but it's one you could obviously use. So when you see the person that's sidestepping a lot, or if they're the type to sidestep, the minute you see them in that animation of being in the sidestep, you should just send a tap shot, and you can cue it immediately into a strike, preferably, because then you could strike cancel, right? The reason I say you should send this tap shot is because once you send the tap shot, they might still be able to sidestep again, and even though they sidestep late, they will still vanish. Now, cueing the strike art, it will put you in 2 positions. One, you would either have them next to you because they vanish step, so you know the gap closes when someone vanishes steps, so then they'd be right next to you and a strike art would cue to go straight into them starting your combo, or they won't sidestep again, they'll get hit by it, and because they're in the stun, when you hit them with the tap shot, you can just strike cancel or strike all the way. You'll probably get perfect vanish if you go all the way, don't do that. So you could just strike cancel. If you did a blast arts, it's the same thing, but you run the risk of them hitting you with tap attacks when they're close to you, or using blast armor, which is very, very risky. So I advise, technically, especially if you're doing this technique, just to use strike arts. But of course, you could also do greens, you could do a blue card counter, assuming they're going to be aggressive. There's always you can go around by it, but I personally don't like sending tap shots. I think they're very, very risky. You never know if they're really going to vanish step. I feel like you have to react a lot faster, but a lot of God rank players do use this, and it might come in clutch for you. The last way you can use this technique is by doing a quick attack. So it's not just in catching them on the sidestep. If you do a quick attack, you can't get perfect vanish. So of course, if you do a quick attack, then you hit a blast. Unless the opponent has blast armor, or you're using Gohan to actually stop their blast armor, they have to vanish. So there's no way you can get perfect vanish in that scenario. So what you want to do, hit them with a quick attack. You can do a strike, but then they have to vanish, but then you won't get perfect vanish. So then it's about timing. Or you could hit them with the strike, then you could hit them with the blast. If they don't have blast armor, you're good regardless. But if they do have blast armor, you got Gohan in the game, and then you could hit them with the anti-blast armor. You know, those are pretty much your options. If you don't want to go for the timing mechanism, this is the other way you could do it. It works the exact same way to stop yourself from getting perfect vanish no matter what, because you could force them to vanish, which is obviously great, but at a delayed time for them. It's not straight away where you're guaranteed to get hit afterwards. Now, I think I should speak on some advantages of using this. It might not be everything, but these are most of them. So of course, you don't get perfect vanish. That's the whole point of the video. If you hit them with that timing, you won't get perfect vanish. That's literally impossible for them because they can't activate anything until they land on their feet. Even if they queue the card, they have to wait until they land on their feet for it to be activated. That's the main thing. You don't get perfect vanished. Number 2, you could increase the amount of Dragon Balls you have. Consistently using cards allows you to get your Rising Rush faster. So if you're then using a blast or a strike cards to fake them out, you can of course increase the amount of Dragon Balls you have. Number 3, you'd be forcing them to vanish. In a game, you're fighting 3v3, so if you take away one of their vanishes, they technically only have 2 left unless that character they're using can get their vanish back. So then they'd have to switch out and then try vanish step again to be safe, or they'd have to straight up attack you. Whichever they choose to use is down to them. But of course, you take their vanish, so that's a plus for you. And I think the last thing I'll say in general, besides from some minute advantages that could be situation per situation, you simply put yourself in a more advantageous position. They have less vanishes, you have more Dragon Balls. They now have to think whether they should attack you straight away. Depending on who you're using, somebody like Super 17, you tap attack them straight after the blast. They can't use strikes and blues now. You put yourself in a very, very advantageous position. Some disadvantage of doing this, naturally, you might use a card that you actually want to use when you actually in a combo. So if you're using a blast art, you have to be careful, you know, you could end up actually using the card you want to use. For example, if I'm using Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and I use the anti-blast armor card, I might have wanted to save that, but I only had 1 blast in my deck. Things like that, you might want to think ahead, so you have to use a card in advance to actually do this, which is kind of annoying. Not always, but bear that in mind. I'll also say there's a lot of counters to doing this, depending on if you're doing a blast or a strike. But if you're doing a blast more specifically, the blast has to reach your opponent even if they vanish step. So that leaves you vulnerable to people that have counters. Super 17's green card counter, Ultra Vegito Blue's green card counter. Some people also have blast armor, so even if they land on their feet late, they could use a strike that has blast armor. They can go through all of your blasts, and you'd have to then vanish or change your course of action, which you did not have. And if you try to blast armor cancel to tap them, they've now hit you with a strike cards because you didn't vanish. So really and truly, there are some maneuvers that can get around this. Not a lot, but of course, bear those in mind more than anything else. There are some others, of course, but again, very much so per situation that you rarely encounter in PvP. One small disadvantage that I also forgot to mention is that a lot of people in PvP are accustomed to gliding. So when you're trying to get the timing right, you have to be wary of people gliding. So a lot of people could get faked out. Don't want to get faked out, but of course you can get faked out because somebody could be gliding. Then you think that's a sidestep, so you hit a blast, but next thing you know, they delayed their sidestep from a glide, and then they've got you in a perfect vanish. So you just have to be very, very specific with your timing. Don't try too hard for it, because they'll be able to tell that you're fishing for it as well in a lot of cases, or they might aggress you and now your whole mindset is out of the way. So don't just focus too hard on doing this. It has to be something that becomes almost unconscious, subconscious to you. You're just doing it naturally. Now in this next segment, I feel the best thing to do would be to show you some gameplay examples. I'll put some counters on the screen, so every time I do an attack that forces them to vanish but it isn't perfect, basically giving myself an advantage, I'll put the counter up on the screen. And what you want to do is obviously watch when I do this, so you can then apply it to your own game and you'll be able to improve off that. This small thing literally takes people from 0 to 100. It's something God rankers do unconsciously. They just naturally do it because they know it will put them in a more advantageous state. You might have people that do it to you like, damn, how come I can't hit them? It's because they're forcing you in this position where you have to vanish step and you never have the chance to get a perfect vanish. That's pretty much it for the video though. After this, there's the gameplay examples. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press that subscribe button, man. We're on this grind to 100,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name's Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.